Before we start with this video, I want to take time out of the video to recognize a comrade of the weather community, Jaden Dyer, who recently passed away. I ask that you all keep him in your prayers, as well as his family and the friends that known him. Whenever someone who leaves the weather community too soon, it always hits home, and even though I didn't know him all too much, I wanted to take the time to pay my respects, as well as give him the recognition that he deserves in the beginning of this video. So please, a moment of silence for that. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate, and today we are going to be discussing both just the lingering severe weather threat over the next couple of days, as well as the temperatures, and the major thing, which is the tropical weather update. The Atlantic is really starting to ramp up, and so we're going to be talking about a few new disturbances that have been moving across the main development region here, which is this area here from the Lesser Antilles all the way over to the coast of Africa. So if you guys are new to my channel, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family and on social media. Also follow me on social media. Links will all be in the description down below. I also have a nice little question of the day for you, a weather take for you all. What do you guys think will happen with these new developments coming off of Africa? Will this maintain into a strong tropical system that could impact the US, or will it stay out off of the coast and into the main portions of the Atlantic? Could it impact Bermuda? Who knows? I'd like to get your thoughts on that as well. First things first, the severe weather here, the categorical outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. There is a 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale here, indicated in this dark green for portions of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, portions of Nevada. You can tell I haven't really talked about these areas at all for severe weather in a while, so I'm just kind of like, wow, they get severe weather all of a sudden? That's pretty crazy. The risks over there are 5% chance for 1-inch size hail or larger within a 25-mile radius, as well as a 5% chance of damaging winds and upwards of 58 miles per hour or above within a 25-mile radius as well. So if you guys live over there, please, please, please monitor your local National Weather Service stations if you could. All these other areas in this light green is just a general thunderstorm risk, so nothing really too significant that I can report for you all. Our high temperatures here for Thursday, August 5th, 2021. You can see very high temperatures across the board here on the western portion of the country, ranging from the Central Plains all the way over towards California, the Pacific states, I should say. Ranging from 80s all the way up to 100 in some spots, triple digits, even higher up in some of the areas closer towards the southern portions of the southwestern states like California, Nevada, Arizona. You guys continue to stay in very hot conditions, so really something you're going to want to watch out for. Great Lakes area like Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, places like New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, you guys are typically within the 70s to 80s as of right now. Deep South, you guys are in the 90s to maybe even upper 80s in some spots. Mid-Atlantic, same thing, 80s for the most part, I should say. And then once you get up to the Northeast, you guys are in the low 80s to upper 70s, unless if you're over in Maine, to which you guys actually crack 60s in some spots. There you go. You guys get some relatively cool temperatures due to the fact that there are some thunderstorms over near your vicinity. Day 2 outlook here. Actually, this is this is for Friday, I believe this is. No, this is the this isn't exactly a day 2 outlook. This is the day 3 outlook, but when you guys see this video, it'll be day 2. There is a 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale here in portions of Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So if you guys are in those areas, highly recommend you guys watch out for that as well. I'm assuming it's going to be a 5% chance for hail, 5% chance for wind, so I'd really watch out for that as that continues to move on through. Chances for tornadoes cannot be ruled out, but it's relatively far out to say for certain, so we'll have to continue to monitor that as well. High temperatures across the board here in the United States on Friday is expected to stay the same, I should say. Much of the areas that I called out before within the previous days practically going to have the same temperatures for the most part, except for a little bit of a heat up here across portions of the Great Lakes, as well as places like the Mid-Atlantic, where they can actually get in upwards of almost 90 in some spots. And then the Northeast is going to continue to stay relatively cool, unless if you're in the giant state of New York, especially in upstate New York, where you guys can crack 80s in some spots. And so I definitely would want to watch out for that as well. Let's take a look at our tropical update here. This is from the Atlantic, our 5-day tropical outlook from the National Hurricane Center. There is 3 areas to watch here, going from weakest to strongest. Invest 91L right here, which did originally have a 20% chance of formation over the next 5 days, has now been reduced to almost rubble at this point, a 0% chance of formation there, but they did just want to get a general consensus to the people that this isn't really a good looking storm, or there isn't really a whole lot of activity to congeal itself to become a full-fledged tropical system. So they just wanted to tell people that this isn't really going to do a whole lot. There also is a new area of interest here with a potential chance of formation over the next 5 days, a 20% chance within that area. It'll be moving off towards the Lesser Antilles here, just to the east of Puerto Rico, and so I would definitely want to watch out for that. This could potentially progress into something a lot later in its lifespan, but as of right now, it's not exactly keen to produce anything within the next 5 days. And then we also have a new tropical wave that's going to be coming off of Africa here, and that's the reason why you have this little orange circle here. 40% chance of formation over the next 5 days. I could anticipate that this thing could even form I'd say within the next 5 days with a higher chance, but I think they're going to be looking at something a lot later than 5 days for a potential formation out of this thing. So I think we should really watch out for this as to how this develops and where this could potentially go. Because one thing that most people don't realize is that most powerful hurricanes that come about from, in the Atlantic that go towards North America into Central America, they either start in the Caribbean right here, whether it's in the Gulf of Mexico or south of Cuba, or they come here from the Cabo Verde Islands that are just outside of Africa, and they kind of just meander itself all the way through, whether they go into the Gulf or whether they go up the coast. It really depends upon how it tracks and what the environment is like out there. So just something to make a note of as this continues to move about. And we'll continue to monitor this, except for the fact that I will be gone from the 7th to the 14th here. So I may not be able to upload videos in between all of them. But then once I get back, I'll be able to get as much information for you out as possible. Now, if we take a look at the Pacific here, we do also have 3 areas of interest, 2 of which have already been designated with names. We have Tropical Storm Hilda over here, which we've been talking about for quite some time. Tropical Depression 9E, which has recently revived itself. It's just basically decided to say, hey, you've never seen the last of me, and we're going to continue to try and create some sort of tropical conditions, potentially for the areas of Hawaii, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We also have our other area of interest here. It did have a 20% chance of formation over the next 5 days. Now it has a 30% chance, and we are expecting that to form here soon, probably after 5 days, as I mentioned in the last video. It's going to be one of those things where it's a long process to figure out when that thing can actually start to get its act together and really initiate. But for right now, most of it is just a bunch of scattered convection and thunderstorms that are moving off of Central America. And once that starts to get over water, that's when we really can start talking about this thing and how it develops. Getting closer towards Hawaii here, we have the Central Pacific outlook here. Here is Hilda, here is 9E, and you can see how close it is getting towards Hawaii over time. If you even look over the past videos that I've done and how it's progressively moved across the Pacific, you can see how much distance it's covered over the past week and a half. So a lot to talk about here in regards to where this is going to end up heading. And speaking of which, let's just go ahead and talk about Hilda here. I mean, the latest outlook here, or the latest advisory for Hilda at 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which would be about 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, over here on the East Coast. This thing does have a maximum sustained wind of 40 miles per hour, a minimum pressure of 1005 millibars, moving west-northwest at 9 miles per hour. This thing is not anticipated to stay at a tropical storm strength, though, because you can see these little circles with the letter D in the middle of that. That basically tells you that this thing could potentially form into a depression, a tropical depression here later on, or at least weaken to a tropical depression. I should say, not form into a tropical depression. So this thing isn't expected to be all too significant, but it does still look relatively organized. You can see the giant swirl here over the giant, the nice little GIF that we have here playing. You can see the bands that continuously create this counterclockwise motion with a little bit of these feathers, indicating some decent ventilation coming off of this tropical system. But you can tell that this thing is definitely weakening. It was not what it was before, being a hurricane. It did have a lot more thunderstorm activity with a lot of these reds and blacks in the middle. And so usually when you see those reds and blacks, that indicates a lot stronger thunderstorm activity right within the center of it. Because there's not as much around the actual system, this does indicate that this most likely is weakening just a bit further. Now here's Tropical Depression 9E. I said this thing has kind of rejuvenated itself compared to what it was before. It was a remnant. It did have, you know, tropical depression characteristics way back when, probably about a week ago. Then it weakened significantly and basically lost all of its structure. Now the remnants of it has kind of rejuvenated itself, and it's became another tropical system, the same tropical system, I should say, that it was before. So latest advisory that we have here: maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, minimum sustained pressure of 1007 millibars, moving north-northwest at 7 miles per hour. This thing is expected to intensify a bit further into a tropical storm by Wednesday morning into Thursday. And once that continues to get closer and closer towards Hawaii, moving north-northwest, it will be moving into more unfavorable conditions, and so it will then weaken back into a tropical depression as it once was. But it will get a name, and we'll discuss as to what that name will be come Friday's episode of this weather events. So do stay tuned to that as we get closer and closer. Be sure to turn on notifications for this channel if you haven't already. Taking a look at the tropical update here, the infrared satellite, you can see that there's a lot more reds and blacks here compared to what Hilda was looking like. And this is what we want to see out of tropical systems. It's not exactly as organized as Hilda was. You saw how Hilda was has this whole counterclockwise spin to it, and that's because it's been a full-fledged low pressure system for as long as it has been. This has just recently initiated itself as a tropical system again, and it's not as organized as maybe some others that have had much longer longevity than this, obviously. So still a lot of thunderstorm activity, not too much to say for certain, but this is expected to become a tropical system, a tropical storm, I should say, as it gets closer and closer to Hawaii. Now, if we take a look at the GEFS spaghetti model ensembles, I'm going to be doing a giant consensus for all sorts of things here. I was trying to figure out what could make this video a lot shorter than what I've been doing earlier, because you guys want to know the information as to where the tropical systems are going to be going, but wouldn't it be nice to smack everything all together? Well, luckily we have this. We have the GEFS ensemble means for these tropical systems, and we have a couple different indicators here to show as to what this could potentially mean for strength of tropical systems. So you can see the tracks. If it's blue, it has around 30 to 40 knots of wind speed, or that's what its maximum sustained winds, I should say, are. Green is 40 to 50. Yellow is 50 to 60, orange is 60 to 70, kind of this light red is 70 to 80, this kind of pinkish red is 80 to 100, and then pink is above 100 knots. So just really interesting to show off for that, as well as the pressures with this the little gradient of this little circle and stuff like that. That's also what shows the pressure in millibars, so something to consider as you continue to watch this out. But here's Wednesday. Obviously, this is today. Heading off into the latter stages of the week here, you can see how by Sunday, this band of tropical systems that were with Hilda and Tropical Depression 9E, you can see how this starts to narrow a bit closer and closer to Hawaii. Now, Hilda ends up kind of deteriorating a bit more according to this model, but 9E, that's the other one, is still ongoing. You can also see how there's a couple of these little green tracks here, and by looking at the top right here, you can see again the green means 40 to 50 knots of wind shear. Tropical storms need at least, or not wind shear, maximum sustained winds. Tropical storms need at least 35 knots of sustained winds in order to be considered a tropical storm. And so some of the model members do say that this will become a tropical storm as time continues to progress. And then even later on into the mid parts of next week, you can see how it does start to deteriorate as it gets closer and closer to Hawaii, and some of which even say that it'll go north of Hawaii before it really does anything else. But here's the other thing that we were talking about, the other area of interest, and you can see how inconsistent it is to where this thing actually will form and where it will go afterwards, because this covers a lot of area right here. You can see how there are some that take it further north. You can see that there are some that take it pretty far south. You can see some that take it a bit further west too. And so even as we play this out towards the end of next week, you can see how this really does become a bit more of a mess and a bit more of a hassle to predict. But for the most part, it does seem as if the consensus is it takes it off of the coast of Mexico, and it doesn't really do a whole lot after that, although there is some that say some of the maximum sustained winds on this storm could potentially be in upwards of 70 to 80 knots, which could mean that this could become a hurricane as this continues to progress up the Mexican coast. So really something of interest that we're going to want to watch out for. And even at the end of this model run, you can see how this becomes really sporadic and really disorganized. So many different lines that it's almost as if you're picking out of a nice little Skittles jar. It's just really, really chaotic there. But let's take a look over at the Atlantic. Enough about the Pacific. The Atlantic outlook, again, this is just a general overview. As I said, 91L doesn't have a chance of forming. This over here that's heading towards the Lesser Antilles has a 20% chance of formation over the next 5 days. And then the new tropical wave that we're talking about off of the coast of Africa has a 40% chance of formation over the next 5 days. Taking a look at the satellite imagery, this gives you an idea as to what all we're talking about, more or less, because, you know, it's really easy to say, oh, well, this is where the stuff is, but what do you mean? Where is it all at? What about satellite? Well, here you are. This is your satellite imagery, and this is what I'm talking about. Here's your new tropical wave, and you can see how much thunderstorm activity is coming off of Africa with that, and that's the reason why we got to watch out for all of that activity, because once you have so much convection, a lot of thunderstorm activity with moisture and warm sea surface temperatures like there are down there, then that's when we can really start talking about tropical systems to start forming off of that. And as that continues to progress and get closer and closer, it could pick one of two ways. It can either go north of the Greater Antilles or south of the Greater Antilles, maybe even towards the Greater Antilles, and that's when we can start talking about direct impacts, whether or not the coast is impacted, whether or not the Gulf is impacted, whether or not Central America is impacted. That's all the things that we'll have to wait for as soon as we get to the models. Now, the reason why there's so much activity that's starting to fire off now is because there's a lot of vorticity potential or velocity potential. And we can see that here based off of two different models. We got the CFS, the climate forecast system, on the left, and then we got the empirical, can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I think it's the empirical wave propagation. I think that's what it's called. Anyways, what they say, names of the models are not important. What they say is the lift in the atmosphere, where is that? All right. And so the green shows you your lift, and then your orange is your anti-lift, more or less. That's kind of your stable air. So you have instability, which is your green, which there's a lot of it in the Indian Ocean within the time frame of the 23rd of August. There's not a lot of it over here in the Pacific once you get towards the 18th of August. So if we take a look at this based off of a 5-day analysis, where that's where every frame is, this is now, this is 5 days from then, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 25, 30, 35, 40, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. And so you can see the green right within some of these areas as to how it gets pretty active here within the next 20 of, I'd say probably 20 days, not past 20 days, but up to 20 days. You can see there's a lot of green here in the Gulf of Mexico, the main development region, which is over basically off the coast of Africa, closer towards the Lesser Antilles. You can see there's even, some activity south of that towards South America. There's a lot of activity here according to the CFS. But the EWP here, this actually says that activity will most likely stay consistent for quite a while, actually. You can see how the Gulf of Mexico even still gets into the action all the way until most likely the beginning of September, which there could possibly be a little bit dry again. But even then, once you get towards the end of the model ranges, that's when it starts to become a bit more inconsistent. So the major thing to note here is the first 20 days will most likely be active here in August. And that's when we can really start to watch out for tropical systems to potentially move about, meander, and whether or not that'll impact the US or not, that's something that we still have not determined. We're going to continue to watch out for that. So please be please be sure to stay tuned to the channel if you can. Now let's take a look at the spaghetti model guidance here, the GEFS, and the interesting thing about the GEFS is that it actually mentions that there could potentially be a tropical system to form off of a bit of a trough that moves on through here. That's what a lot of the thunderstorm activity here for places like Hatteras all the way up towards Cape Cod and Nantucket. There's a lot of thunderstorm activity over there, and they're actually thinking that there could be a tropical system that could form off of this. So that's the reason why there is something up there. But the main areas that we're going to want to watch out for is this area right here. And you'll see how this thing really starts to progress once it gets towards the end of this weekend. So here's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and look at how many models there are, model ensemble members that are saying there's a lot of activity specifically right within here. You can see how this was originally the low pressure system that was over there I was talking about, but this is the area to watch out for, and how this continues to progress towards the US coast, even towards the Lesser Antilles, is the big question here. So let's continue to move on through the mid part of next week into the latter stages of next week, and you can see how most of the models actually take this out to sea closer towards Bermuda. So that is the good news here for most of these ensemble members. However, there are a couple that say that this could get into the high-end tropical storm, low-end category 1 hurricane vicinity. So that is something that we do need to consider, especially for the island of Bermuda. I know I do have a couple people who watch my videos who live over on the island of Bermuda, so I would highly watch out for this, especially towards the end of next week. Luckily, I'll be back by the 15th, so if there's anything that happens by then I'll be able to cover it for you all. But just one thing to make a note of with this is that this does look to be a bit of an active period, and this does end up heading out to C4 now. Now, that's not saying that this will be set in stone, that this is where this is going to be heading off to. You can see there's also a couple model ensemble members that say that this actually will get really close towards the Greater Antilles. And typically what happens when this occurs is that it becomes either really close to the coast and comes up like this, or it kind of steers out away towards Bermuda as well. So these few ensemble members we cannot stray away from. We really have to watch out for how this all progresses closer and closer towards the mid part of next week and even into the end of next week. So as we continue to play this out towards the weekend and even the following week, you can see how this does end up being really interesting, as there is a tropical system, according to this, that ends up being a hurricane, and it's very close to the island of Bermuda, so we're really going to have to watch out for that. We also have to watch out for a couple of these other low pressure systems that end up developing in the Gulf, because there is an area of enhanced lift over there, as we've seen with the CFS and the EWP earlier. So just one thing to make a note of as this continues to move on through. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's the case, if there's something that forms here in the Gulf within this time frame. So really something we're going to have to watch out for, according to the GEFS. Now the ECENS, however, this is a separate model. It doesn't say that there is a whole lot more activity in the central Atlantic. This actually says that much of the activity might end up becoming a bit closer to home here. And so there's really something that we got to pay attention here to not just one model, but two models, because let's just be honest here, more opinions are better. And so if we can take a look at more opinions, most opinions, and see as to what they think is going to happen and how we can predict ahead of time as to where this could potentially impact, then we can consider all sorts of options and opinions and make a good forecast. So just one of those things where we have to consider as many things as possible. And I could potentially see something like this by the end of next week, as I said, Saturday, August 14th, where there's a couple tropical systems that do end up forming, and they might even get a little bit closer towards the East Coast. So if I were the East Coast for the most part, I know I'm going to be along the East Coast for the most part, and even if there's a tropical system that moves on through, I'm going to be chasing that. If you guys are along the East Coast here, I would definitely watch out for this as this gets closer and closer towards the end of next week. We still have a lot of time here, but this is one of those things where we have to continue to kind of give out a little bit of a warning ahead of time as to when this could potentially be moving closer and closer towards the US. All right, final thoughts here for the end of the video. I know it's a bit of a short one, but I made this short on purpose because I knew a lot of my videos were pretty lengthy, and I felt like I could make some of the other videos, whenever I wish to be a bit more lengthy and a bit more in-depth. But I think this is a good step forward for the channel. Some updates, uploads will be once every 2 days, unless if there is either A, active weather approaching, which we will do upload every day, or active weather is ongoing, like a current tropical system that is in the Atlantic. Then we'll be uploading like a strong tropical system. Then we'll be uploading a video in the morning and a live stream at night, or we could just be uploading videos twice a day, but we'll probably do the video in the morning and the live stream at night. Two, as I mentioned, I'll be absent from August 7th to August 14th due to me heading up to Massachusetts. If any of you guys are going to the preseason game for the Patriots hosting the Washington football team, I will be there. Most likely. Unless if it rains, then I probably won't be there. But if you guys are going to be up there, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. And we could potentially meet up, talk a little bit while we're at the game. But otherwise, I probably won't be uploading. I don't really have the equipment to do so once I'm gone. So just something to make a note of for that. That's the reason why I'm trying to get as much information out to you all as possible. And then number 3, I will be doing makeshift questions of the day. It's called Weather Takes. So I'll be asking you guys questions and stuff like that, getting your thoughts in the comments down below. I really would appreciate it if you guys would actually come out to, join in and engaging topics like this. And so it's just one of those things where I can try and be as relatable as possible to you all. And secretly, it kind of helps me with my YouTube's revenue and YouTube's algorithm and stuff like that. So please. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it from me. If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family, and on social media like Facebook and Twitter. A lot of people typically go over there for their information, so please be sure to share this video on there. Follow me on social media. All of that link will be in the description down below. That's gonna be it from me. My name is Nate. I also go by HockeyBoy Nate. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.